Alright guys, today you're going to look at something called composite area, and there's basically two types of composites. The first type that we're going to look at in this first page are when you're going to have more than one shape that you have to add together. So when you have shapes that look like these four examples that I'm going to walk through, you need to try to figure out what shapes are involved. So number one, if you look at this, I see a rectangle and half of a circle. So you have to find the area of two shapes, the rectangle and half of the circle, and add them together. So the area of the rectangle is 12 times 8, which is 96. The area of half of a circle would be pi times r squared, and I'd have to divide by 2 because I only have half of a circle. So my r, if I look at this, my r would go from here to here. What is this distance? That would be 4. So I have pi times 16 over 2 because I got 4 squared. So that would be 16 divided by 2 is 8 times pi. So if I put that in my calculator, 8 times pi, 8 times pi, 3.14, that's 25.12. So then to get my composite, that means I have to add them together, I would add those. So 25.12 plus 96, so I get 25.12 plus 96, and it looks like I get 121.12 squared feet. Composites are just two shapes or three shapes put together. That's all they are. You just have to find different areas and then add them up. So this next one, if I draw a line right here, I now have a rectangle and a triangle. So the area of the rectangle, this is 8 times 13. So 13 times 8. And in your calculator you can do that. That's 104. But then I also have this triangle. Well, the base of this triangle is 8. And with a triangle I need the height. So that's where you have to think about it a little bit. What would the height of this triangle be? Well, this is 19 and this is 13, so the height of this triangle is 6. So for the area of a triangle, I take 8 times 6, and I have to divide by 2, so that gives me 24. So this is 24. To get the composite area, you take your 24 plus 104, because that was the rectangle, and you get 128 squared inches. These are how you do composites. So let's look at this one. This one, to me, it looks like I have two rectangles. This first rectangle is 11 by 4. So this area is 44 squared centimeters. This rectangle is actually a square. The area of a square is 5 times 5, or 25. To get the total area, you would add them together, so you get 69 squared centimeters is your area. This next one looks like a teardrop, but it's two shapes. It's a triangle and a semicircle. So a triangle and a half circle. The area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So for our triangle we have 8 times 7, and if you divide that by 2 you get 28. So our triangle is 28. Our half circle would be pi times r squared divided by 2, because it's half of a circle. Our r is 4, so we get pi times 16 over 2, which is 8 pi again, which is like 25.12. So to get my total area, I add them together, so I get 0.123, if I carry that, 53.12, if I did my math correctly, squared feet. So that's one type of composite. The other type of composite functions that you can have are where you have to subtract, where there's things missing. So these ones you had to add because there was nothing missing. Here you have to subtract. So on number 1, I have a square, and I have a circle, and I want the area of the grid. So the area of the square would be 64, 8 times 8. The area of the circle would be pi r squared, which r would be half of 8, so r is 4 again. So the area of the circle is 16 pi. So I'm going to figure out what 16 times pi is. So 16 times 3.14, it's 50.24. So I take 64 minus 50.24 because I have to subtract out the circle. And so I'm going to do that, 64 minus 50.24, and I get 13.76 squared feet. So these are composites where you have to subtract on these ones. Here you have a big triangle, and out of the triangle, so you have this big triangle here that I'm going to draw in pink, and you have to, you have to subtract out a square. So it's going to be a triangle minus a square. The area of my square is 5 times 5, 25. The area of my triangle is base times height divided by 2. So my base is 10, my height is 15, and then I multiply those and divide by 2, so that gives me 75. And then I subtract this time. So that gives me 50 squared meters. That would be my answer for that one. These last two, if you look here, this one's kind of special. This is a rectangle minus a square is how I look at that one. So you have a rectangle minus a square. The area of the little square is 4 times 4, 16. The area of the rectangle is 12 times 8, which is 96. And when you subtract them, you get 80 centimeters squared. The last composite that I'm showing you right here is if I draw this line in, it would be a rectangle minus half a circle. So my rectangle is 13 by 6. So my rectangle is 13 times 6, which is, what is that? 8, carry the 1, 78. And now my half a circle is going to be pi r squared divided by 2 because I only have half of the circle. My r goes from here to here, which would be 3 because this is 6. So I get pi times 3 squared divided by 2, which is 9 times pi divided by 2. So I'll use my calculator. 9 times 3.14 divided by 2 gives me 13. So 14.13. And then you minus those. So you get 78 minus 14.13 and that's 63.87 squared yards. Those are composites. Do your practice in Canvas.